Tēnā koutou katoa and warm Pacific greetings to you all. My name is Dr. Siouxsie Wiles and I'm a scientist at the University of Auckland in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I have the privilege today of reporting back to you all on the science and research track, which looked at the role of scientists in contributing to the infodemic. Our discussions converged on three main themes: the way we do research, the way that research is curated, and the way that research is communicated to policymakers and the public. Today, I'm going to take you through each of these themes, talk about the challenges and the solutions, and then give you a call to arms. I'm going to start with this quote from Ed Yong that I think sums up our track quite well. What he's talking about is how science is being portrayed during the COVID-19 pandemic. And he says, "This is how science actually works. It is less the parade of decisive blockbuster discoveries that the press often portrays, and more a slow, erratic stumble towards ever less uncertainty." So if we start with challenge one, the way we do research, that is best described as this slow, erratic stumble towards ever less uncertainty, at least under normal circumstances. What we've seen during the COVID-19 pandemic is a very rapid, erratic stumble towards ever less uncertainty, although maybe with some certainty put in there. So what we've seen is an abundance of really poor studies, large amounts of waste and duplication, and a real imbalance of topics. Some parts of the pandemic are being really overstudied, and others are being ignored completely, it seems. For example, we've got lots and lots of clinical trials going on of various types, but almost no trials looking at non-drug interventions, which are the types that are actually, or the interventions that are actually being used the most during this pandemic. This is partly, I think, because of a flavor of the month. So obviously we're in a major crisis, and so lots of researchers are pivoting towards working on COVID-19. This is both a good and a bad thing, where we're getting lots of people, using their talents to understand the pandemic, but also people who perhaps are working in areas now that they would not have normally worked in before. This is partly because people want to use their skills to help understand the pandemic, but there might also be some who are using this for a little bit of what we call academic profiteering. So they're applying their skills perhaps in ways that are not best suited to them and contributing to the infodemic in this way. So what were the solutions proposed? Well, the main one is to do good quality, collaborative, ethical research. We really need to be expanding networks for collaboration across country, between countries, within countries, and we really need to promote transparency and data sharing. That way we can see who is doing what and when. And there needs to be a real change to providing real-time feedback on studies as they're being done, rather than waiting until the peer review process once studies are finished. So if we can do this, we can do much better quality research, perhaps ensuring that the best methodologies are being used. The second challenge is the curation of research. And really what this boils down to is the fact that when we are curating all our research together, for a long time we've been using paywall journals and a slow and biased peer review system that's really not fit for purpose. And we're very much seeing this during a pandemic where policymakers, medics, and scientists need faster access to research and results. And they need to be equitably available to everybody rather than just those who can afford to access paywall journals. What we've seen during the pandemic then has been a real move towards the use of preprints, where academic scientific results are made available before they've gone through peer review. And what this has really led to has been an immediate and widespread sharing of unvetted scientific information in the public domain. This has allowed scientists to do a lot of that vetting themselves, but has also allowed others to access that unvetted information and share it with whatever their conclusions have been. And we've also seen a lot of the use of press releases as well by companies who might be doing research, whether that's the clinical trials, rather than also using the preprint format. What are the solutions for this? Well, we really need to be proactive as scientists, ensuring that the work that we publish, however we publish it, is understood as intended. One of the solutions for this might be to include plain language summaries in everything that we do, and encouraging the good use of preprints. making sure everybody understands that these have not been properly vetted, but they are a format in which they can be vetted. We also need to be supporting fact checkers, so, to people with expertise actually being able to look at all the data. And the one big thing we need to do is to move to a transparent form of post-publication peer review. So we all know that the peer review system is not perfect, and really we all need to be taking part, peer reviewing papers as they are, once they're already published or as preprints, and really moving to the idea that manuscripts should be living documents rather than just at the end they've been peer reviewed by just a few people and then taken as the kind of final word. The final challenge we talked about was that of communication. And what we've seen here really is a potential way of really eroding public trust in experts. And that's partly because this is such a fast moving area where our understanding is changing almost by the day, so that you end up with experts saying one thing one day and then something quite different the next day. Obviously, things are moving very fast, and people need, policymakers need information very fast. But this is quite different to how science normally works. So I think what we've had is we've never really had to explain to the public how science really works, and the fact that this this is already happening, that this people changing their minds as the evidence changed. But what people are seeing is that being done in real time and out in the open. So what we've also got is an abundance of new communication channels and self-appointed experts. And all of this is certainly creating confusion around what information is real, what isn't, and what can be trusted. So our solutions for communication is really that researchers really need to be willing to be timely and transparent about their communication, to let people know what they do know and what they don't know, and to really acknowledge that uncertainty, but also the trade-offs that people will be making. What's also really clear in this pandemic is that the public haven't perhaps understood how policymakers make decisions. And so they'll be confused about the fact that the policymakers in different countries might be taking the same evidence, but making completely different decisions. So being transparent about the evidence that scientists are giving that's helping contribute to those decisions is really important. Scientists and communicators also need to work better together to communicate work in different ways that will reach different audiences, and be really clear about the benefit of exploring new methods of communication so that good information can reach a wider audience. So our call to action is very much that scientists themselves should be doing good quality collaborative and ethical research. We have good mechanisms for all of that. People need to be using them. We need to embrace transparency and learn to communicate beyond our peers. We have to remember that the research does not end with the publication of a peer-reviewed journal article. And all of these things are well and good, though, to encourage scientists to do, but we really need to make sure that funders and governments and institutions stop actively disincentivizing scientists to do all of these things. The way our systems work at the moment, they very much benefit those who are not working collaboratively, who perhaps are doing rushed science, who don't embrace transparency, and who don't focus on communication. And so if we get those incentives to change, then we should be able to get scientists to change. And with that, I'll thank you very much.